Have you ever felt alone? Not because no one loves you, but because no one truly understands you? It's a strange loneliness, not the loud kind, not the dramatic kind, but a quiet ache, like you're talking, but no one's really hearing, like your heart is knocking on a door that won't open. You might be in a relationship surrounded by people, texting in 5 group chats, and still feel like a ghost drifting through the day. That's not a sign that something's wrong with you. It's a sign that something's off with how we're connecting in this world. Carl Jung, almost a century ago, predicted this dissonance. He didn't just speak to lovers or loners. He saw that in modern life, we'd lose touch with essence, that we'd start to live on the surface, polished on the outside, hollow on the inside. And look at where we are now. Families talk more through memes than real conversations. Workplaces are efficient but soulless. Dating apps feel more like vending machines than pathways to intimacy. Even friendships feel like performances at times, measured by likes, replies, or how fun we are. So no, you're not too sensitive. You're not imagining it. That feeling you carry, that something isn't quite right, it's real. And maybe it's not a problem to be fixed. Maybe it's a call, a nudge, an invitation to look deeper, beneath the noise, the roles, the filters. Because the truth is, we don't need more connection. We need real connection, soul to soul, presence to presence. There's a quiet war happening, not on the streets, but inside our relationships. Not with weapons, but with silence, sarcasm, control, and fear. It's the war between the wounded masculine and the false feminine, and most of us are caught in the crossfire. Women today are praised for being strong, but sometimes that strength comes from survival, not from essence. It's not the power that flows from the heart, it's the armor that forms around the wound. Be independent. Don't need anyone. Never show weakness. It sounds like empowerment, but often it's just elegant isolation. Men, on the other hand, have been told for decades to soften, to stop leading, to be less. And many did, only to be shamed for being passive, absent, or disconnected. So now we have a generation of emotionally castrated men, unsure of how to show up, afraid of both rejection and responsibility. Carl Jung saw this coming. He spoke of archetypal imbalance. When the masculine and feminine lose their natural dance, their polarity turns to polarity conflict. And when that happens, love becomes a battlefield. Not a space of surrender and healing, but of strategy and survival. Think about it. How many relationships today feel like power struggles? Like negotiations over who gets to feel safe, who gets to lead, who has the upper hand. Everyone's trying to win, but no one is willing to surrender. And in that refusal, we all lose. We win arguments, but lose intimacy. We protect our pride, but sacrifice connection. We build walls, but forget what it feels like to be truly held or truly seen. So if you're tired of performing, of defending, of proving, you're not alone. And maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just responding to a system that is. We live in a time where many women no longer seek love. They seek validation, not from the heart of another human being, but from the cold logic of algorithms and strangers on a screen. A like becomes a substitute for being seen. A comment replaces being heard. And attention, well, it's confused for affection. But deep down, there's a quiet ache, because none of it touches the soul. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the part of ourselves we bury because we've been told it's too much or not enough. The part that's sensitive, afraid, hungry for love. We exile it. We dress it up. We filter it, hashtag it, hide it behind perfect smiles. But it never really goes away. When a woman is not truly seen, heard, or held in her raw essence, she learns to survive, not to connect. She becomes defensive, not because she's cold, but because she's been burned too many times for being warm. And so the shadow grows, not just in her, but in all of us. We perform instead of feel. We protect instead of open. We chase a version of power that looks strong on the outside, but inside it's just a little girl terrified of being invisible. Ask yourself, when was the last time you let someone see the part of you you're ashamed of? Not the curated version, not the strong version, the trembling one, the true one. If you can't remember, that's not your fault. It's the cost of living in a world that teaches performance over presence. But the shadow doesn't disappear when ignored. It festers. And one day it walks into our relationships, our choices, our identities. As resentment, anxiety, numbness. Not because we're broken, but because we've forgotten how to be whole. We are more connected than ever, yet somehow we feel more alone. We scroll, swipe, respond to notifications. But when was the last time you truly felt seen? Not for what you posted, but for what you couldn't put into words. This isn't just about social media. It's about how we've learned to live on the surface. Curated, cautious, and constantly seeking approval. Our relationships have become performances. We say what's expected. We smile when it's safe. We play roles. But we rarely let our soul speak. Why? Because most of us haven't been taught how to go inward. We don't slow down long enough to feel our pain. We distract ourselves with productivity, with dating apps, with endless goals. But underneath it all, we carry unhealed wounds. Childhood patterns, heartbreaks, inherited silence. Jung once said that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Think about that. How many of your choices are truly yours? How many of your relationships are based on real resonance, and not just habit, fear, or a desire to be chosen? When we deny the work within, we start settling. We settle for chemistry instead of connection, for attraction instead of understanding, for attention instead of intimacy. Men become performers of masculinity. Women become defenders of an idea of power. No one feels safe enough to be real, so we keep wearing masks. And then we wonder why nothing feels meaningful anymore. Denial doesn't just numb pain, it drains life of depth. It replaces soul with strategy. And slowly, the part of us that longs for something true starts to go quiet. But silence isn't peace. It's often just exhaustion from pretending for too long. So ask yourself, where have I been choosing comfort over truth? Where have I confused validation with love? Because the moment you stop performing, that's when something real finally has a chance to find you. Carl Jung once said, "Those who look outside dream. Those who look inside awaken." At first glance, it sounds poetic, but sit with it a little longer, and it becomes a mirror. Because most of us are caught in the first part. We're dreaming. We chase things outside of ourselves. The right partner, the perfect job, the next dopamine hit. And for a moment, it feels like progress. But deep down, it's more like running in circles, with a smile on our face and a hole in our chest. Jung wasn't talking about self-help. He was talking about integration, the sacred act of bringing together the split parts within us, our masculine and feminine, our light and shadow, our intellect and instinct. Modern life teaches us to pick sides, to perform strength or softness, to suppress feeling or deny logic. But wholeness is not found in extremes. It's found in the quiet courage of embracing both. The truth is, we all carry a war within. Some of us are overdeveloped in doing, but starved of being. Some are hyper-emotional but afraid of structure. And so we seek balance, but only by trying to fix others. Here's the twist. Without doing the inner work, we keep attracting relationships that reflect our disowned parts. The emotionally unavailable partner might just be a mirror to the parts of us that don't feel safe with intimacy. The controlling friend might be reflecting our own fear of trusting life. We think we're unlucky in love, but maybe we're just split inside. This is why inner work isn't optional. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. Because if you don't find that balance within, you'll keep looking for it in someone else, and you'll call it chemistry, when in fact it's unfinished business. So maybe the real question is this: what part of me have I abandoned? just to be accepted. And am I ready to welcome it home? Something subtle, but deeply troubling, has happened to our culture. We've confused appearances with identity. We've replaced being with branding. And in this shift, something sacred got lost, especially in how we understand femininity and masculinity. Femininity has been pathologized. It's treated like a weakness, something to fix or outperform. Softness, intuition, receptivity, these are now seen as liabilities in a hypermasculine world. So women adapt. They armor up, not from power, but from fear. We call it empowerment, but often it's just performance, an external assertion of strength that hides in internal exhaustion. And masculinity, it's not much better. It's either mocked or muted, labeled as toxic, without ever being understood in its healthy, grounded form. So now we live in a strange paradox. Men are discouraged from embodying true masculinity, and women are pressured to perform a kind of distorted masculinity to survive. This isn't liberation. It's a costume party at the soul's expense. Carl Jung once said that the soul of a culture reveals itself in the way it treats the feminine. And if that's true, then maybe what we're facing isn't just a gender crisis. It's a spiritual one. Because when we disconnect from true feminine energy, we lose more than softness. We lose wisdom. We lose the ability to feel life, to nurture it, to listen inwardly instead of always broadcasting outward. Real feminine power isn't loud. It doesn't shout or demand. It simply is, anchored, steady, magnetic. But in a world that rewards noise over depth, women are told to be louder, not deeper, to be everything, but not themselves. So maybe the deeper question is this: what have we sacrificed in order to appear powerful? And are we ready to reclaim the kind of power that doesn't need to perform? There's a quiet grief that many women carry, not because they are weak, but because they were never taught how to feel without fear. From an early age, they were trained to perform. Smile when you're hurting. Look confident even when you're unsure. Be strong, even if it means shutting down your heart. And so, over time, many became fluent in performance, but strangers to their own emotional truth. Can you blame them? The world rewards mass, not authenticity. Social media thrives on curation, not vulnerability. And even in relationships, what we call connection is often just performance in disguise. Here's the deeper truth. Intimacy cannot exist without vulnerability. And vulnerability cannot exist when your emotional body is wrapped in armor. So we end up in relationships where two people are performing closeness without ever truly being seen. We talk, but we don't reveal. We touch, but we don't feel. We stay busy, so we don't have to go deep. But real love doesn't happen at the surface. It lives in the quiet spaces, in the silence after an argument, in the way someone holds your hand without fixing your sadness, in the courage to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. Carl Jung believed that true connection requires a symbolic way of seeing, not just what is said, but what is meant. Not just behavior, but the emotion underneath. He called it soul talk, a language of depth, silence, and subtle understanding. But how can we speak soul to soul when we've been taught to speak only in smiles and emojis? So maybe healing starts with this: dropping the script, letting go of who we think we should be, and daring, even for a moment, to let someone witness who we truly are, beyond the armor, beyond the roles. Because if love is ever to be real, it must meet us in the places we're most afraid to show. Let me say something that may sound strange at first. The solution is not to change women. It's not to blame men either. The real solution is to awaken. You see, the modern world keeps telling us the problem is out there. That if men were just more sensitive, or if women were just less emotional, then everything would be okay. But that's a distraction. The real battle isn't between genders. It's between your soul and your silence. Most people go through life trying to get love, from a partner, from society, from a screen. They beg to be chosen. They twist themselves into versions that feel more acceptable. But in doing so, something sacred quietly dies. So let me ask you this. What part of you dies every time you abandon who you really are just to be accepted? Every time you tone yourself down? Every time you choose comfort over truth? Every time you hide your needs to avoid rejection? That is the fire we must awaken. The part of you that no longer begs, that no longer waits, that doesn't need to scream to be seen, but simply is, fully and powerfully present. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So maybe it's time to stop asking the world to love you and start becoming the presence that love naturally flows toward. You are not here to perform. You are here to remember. To remember the self you buried under shoulds and expectations. To reclaim the voice you silenced. To become the alchemist of your own transformation. Not waiting for someone to save you, but learning to turn your own shadows into gold. And that is what awakening means. Not becoming someone new, but finally having the courage to be who you were before the world told you who to be. Let's be clear, this isn't a message against women. It's not a judgment on men either. This is a cry from the soul, a quiet cry maybe, one you've heard before, late at night, when the noise stops and something deeper begins to speak. If anything in this video made you uncomfortable, that's not a bad thing. That's usually where truth lives, right at the edge of discomfort. You see, we spend our lives trying to avoid pain, avoid silence, avoid the mirror. But truth doesn't scream, it whispers. And it often shows up disguised as discomfort, irritation, even grief. If something stirred inside you today, maybe an ache, a memory, or a longing you couldn't name, don't rush to numb it. Let it breathe. Sit with it like an old friend you forgot you missed. The silence that follows this message, it isn't emptiness. It's the doorway to awakening. Because beneath all the noise, all the pretending, all the roles we play, there is something whole, ancient, and deeply true within you, waiting to be remembered. We weren't born broken, we were born whole. And maybe healing isn't about fixing anything. Maybe it's about uncovering what was never truly lost. So if your heart feels heavy, good. It means it's opening. And that's where the real journey begins. Not outward, but inward. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this video. If you found it helpful, please share it with someone you know who might need to hear this. You never know how much it could mean to them. And if you'd like to join me on future journeys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of the upcoming content. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.